Right, good morning everyone. So we're going to carry on with our reading of David Walliams' The Ice Monster today. We'll do a quick recap before we start. So Elsie went and found the Sticky Fingers gang and she collected 1,000 handkerchiefs so that they could do their plan of making a hot air balloon. Remember, she was planning with the professor to make a hot air balloon and then to go and fly into a thunderstorm. Dottie, the cleaner, was going to fly the hot air balloon into a thunderstorm, and they're going to connect a copper wire from the hot air balloon down into the woolly mammoth's heart to try and get the woolly mammoth to come back to life. So they have just also managed to lock Clout in the cupboard by tying his shoelaces together, and then they pushed him into the cupboard and locked the door. So this is chapter 27, Thunder Snow. Standing on top of one of the Natural History Museum's towers, Elsie ordered Dottie to listen. After a few moments, the lady became restless and asked, "What are we listening for?" "Silence," replied the girl. "It's quite hard to hear that." "Shh," chided Elsie. "Listen, the birds in the trees have gone quiet." "You're right," replied Dottie. Above their heads, black clouds rolled across the sky. "It feels too cold to rain," said the lady. "It's not going to rain, it's going to snow. Thunder snow. You get to know this stuff when you don't have a roof over your head." "Thunder snow sounds very dramatic. Do you think we'll be safe up here during a thunder snow?" "No." "I thought as much. Oh well, if anything happens to me, please tell Titch I love him." "Oh yes, Titch. You'll find him at the Royal Hospital. He lent us this tin helmet." "Oh yes, I thought it was tiny." "Good things come in small packages. Now, I want to leave all my earthly goods, my mops, my brushes and my bucket to you, Elsie." "That's very kind of you. I'm touched, Dottie, truly. But if I get a job as a cleaning lady in heaven, I'll need them back. Understood?" "Yes, you can have them back any time you want, either in this world or the next. Now let's get this fire going." They turned their attention to their homemade hot air balloon, which they had assembled by following the professor's instructions. After a few attempts, they got the wood in the drum burning. Hot air began to rise. Slowly, the balloon of handkerchiefs and one pair of bloomers began to inflate. Miraculously, the stitches held firm. A multicolored globe grew and grew until it looked big enough to take Dottie's not inconsiderable weight. Elsie turned to Dottie. "Now, when I tug on the copper wire 3 times, that means the other end is stuck right in the mammoth's heart." "The man moths, yes." There wasn't time to correct her, so Elsie ploughed on. "Then, and only then, should you launch the balloon into the air. Do you understand?" "Yeah, 3 times," Dottie nodded. Boom! Thunder echoed across the sky. To the side of the tower was a narrow chimney pipe. It wasn't much wider than a dinner plate. Elsie breathed out all the air she had inside her and lowered herself feet first down the chimney. "See you at the bottom," she called up. "Aren't you forgetting something?" asked Dottie. Elsie looked up at the lady, confused. "The wire." "Oh yeah, that would be useful," said Elsie. "You're as daft as I am," chuckled Dottie. She held out the end of the wire and Elsie placed it in her mouth before disappearing down into the darkness. The girl's hands and feet frantically searched for the sides and for nooks and crevices to hold on to. Eventually, she could see a tiny square of light beneath her. It was the fireplace that opened into the museum director's office. "Squawk!" "Ah!" screamed the girl. Something was attacking her. Feathers, a beak, talons, a bird. It must have been nesting in the chimney stack. The creature seemed as frightened as she was. Both were flailing around in a desperate attempt to survive. In all the commotion, Elsie began sliding down at speed. "Ah!" she cried. Chapter 28. A Giant Catapult. What seemed like a split second later, She was lying in a crumpled heap on the floor of Sir Ray Lancaster's oak-panelled office. The girl had brought a cloud of soot with her, and she couldn't help coughing and spluttering as she tried to breathe. As the cloud passed, she found herself face to face with a horned creature. No! As her hand reached out to stop it attacking her, she realized it was stuffed. A plinth underneath read, Pyrenean Ibex. Not that Elsie could read. The girl scrambled to her feet. Although everything hurt, she hadn't got any broken bones. Elsie took the copper wire in her hand and tiptoed over to the door of the office. She rattled the handle. It was locked. Blast! That wasn't part of the plan. There must be a key somewhere in the room. Elsie opened every drawer, turned every box upside down, and swept her hands over every shelf, but she couldn't find it anywhere. There was a cupboard full of clothes, and she felt in every pocket, but there was no key. Elsie looked back at the strange horned creature. It looked back at her. The stuffed Pyrenean Ibex was the perfect battering ram. She leapt onto the creature's back, and using her feet to power it along, slammed it against the heavy oak door. It barely made a scratch. Elsie had an idea. She returned to the cupboard and pulled out a pair of elasticated braces from some trousers that were hanging there. She tied the ends of the braces to the leg of the heavy desk on one side and the door handle on the other. Then she moved the Ibex into position. With the braces behind its behind, using all her might, the mite pulled it back as far as she possibly could. Elsie had created a giant catapult. When she couldn't hold it for a moment longer, she let go. Twang! The braces shot the Ibex across the office. It smashed through the door. Boom! It sent shards of wood flying through the air. Elsie couldn't help but smile at the destruction she had caused. She picked up the end of the copper wire and with a smile on her face waltzed through the hole she had made in the door. Chapter 29. Dino Ladder. Down in the main hall, the professor was sitting in his wheelchair, staring up at the ice monster. Frozen air was smouldering from the glass tank. Elsie dashed down the steps to join him. The ice! It's melting! She exclaimed. Yes, child, I turned off the cooling system, replied the professor. Otherwise we would never get the end of that copper wire into the creature's heart. But what if we bring it back to life and it immediately drowns in the water? I've thought of that, young lady. That's what this is for. From underneath his wheelchair, he produced a frightening tool that looked halfway between a hammer and an axe. A pickaxe? Yes, child. This will break through the glass. Now, are you ready? Ready for what? To dive into the tank, of course. Me? Yes, you. I can't swim. What if I drown? The professor thought for a moment. Then, urchin, you will be immortalized. Immortalized? Yes, immortalized. As a short footnote, a footnote is a short note written at the bottom of the page, like this. As a short footnote in the story of how I, the great professor, brought the ice monster back to life. Now climb to the top of the tank. Elsie looked around the hall. Have you got a ladder, Professor? She asked. The man's expression darkened. Oops, he replied. I forgot that. Not so great after all, are you? mused the girl. The professor gripped the pickaxe tightly. I'll find a way, said Elsie. She looked around the main hall for something, anything that could be used as a ladder. Elsie realized that the answer was standing right next to her. The Diplodocus! She exclaimed. The enormous dinosaur skeleton was towering over her. You can climb that? He asked. Yes, I have monkey feet. I'll think of it as a dino ladder. What a genius idea of mine, announced the professor. Then when you reach the tank, you must swim down to the creature's heart. I already told you, I can't swim, but I could sink. What do you mean? Professor, may I borrow that pickaxe? Be my guest. The girl took it from him. It felt really heavy, but she did her best to pretend it wasn't. She marched over to the glass cabinet that housed a rock the size of a football. Crash! She smashed the glass and heaved out the rock. "That's a meteorite," remarked the professor. "Here you go," she said, passing the pickaxe back to the professor. "This meteorite will make me sink." "What a splendid idea of mine," he mused. Elsie placed the end of the copper wire back in her mouth and picked up the rock. Slowly but surely, her monkey feet began stepping along the bones of the tail. As if climbing a dinosaur skeleton holding a meteorite wasn't hard enough already, it was dark in the museum. The only light was the occasional flash of lightning outside the snow-encrusted windows. "Quickly," ordered the professor. "We're going to lose the lightning." "I'm going as fast as I can," snapped back the girl. The bones themselves were smooth, which meant it was very easy to slip on them. Elsie took it slowly, letting her toes grip as tightly as they could. In a short while she had reached the skeleton's back. This being a much wider part, she managed to speed up. Now the girl was at the base of the neck, and a very long way up. Elsie looked down. That was a mistake. It was a very long way down. Instantly she felt dizzy. She shut her eyes, but this just made her feel wobblier. "Why on earth have you stopped, you pathetic, pathetic child?" Elsie took a deep breath. A bolt of lightning struck just outside the window, illuminating everything for a split second. The girl knew she had to act now. Still holding the meteorite, she took a step forward, and another, and another. Soon she was halfway across the skeleton's neck and within leaping distance of the mammoth's tank. Boom! A roll of thunder roared across the sky. It was so loud that the museum shook a little. It made Elsie's heart skip a beat, and she lost her footing. "Ah!" she screamed. Chapter 30. The Heart of the Storm. Elsie tumbled forward, but by beautiful chance the back of her coat hooked onto one of the diplodocus bones. Without even realizing quite what had happened, the girl found herself swinging in the air, still miraculously holding on to the meteorite. "I'm alive!" she exclaimed. "Yes, I can see that, you foolish child. Now come on, stop dilly-dallying. We haven't got all night." The girl swung her legs forward and gripped onto the neck bones. With her legs wrapped tightly around the exhibit, she unhooked her coat and swung herself back up using the meteorite for momentum. The skull of the diplodocus was within spitting distance of the tank. From there, she leaped onto the top. The tank was freezing. Her toes tingled with the cold. "Have you found the hatch?" demanded the professor. Elsie looked ahead. "Yes. Unscrew the bolts around the edge." She put down the meteorite and opened the hatch. "Now get in and push the end of the copper wire into the mammoth's heart, just where I showed you." Elsie nodded, picked up the meteorite and plunged down into the icy water. Splosh! "Oh!" she exclaimed. The cold shocked her and she could hardly breathe. Still holding the meteorite, she sank like a stone. Within a second, she was at the bottom of the tank. From his wheelchair, the professor frantically pointed out to Elsie where the creature's heart was. Elsie let go of the meteorite and floated upwards, plunging the end of the copper wire deep into the mammoth's chest. Elsie now felt completely out of breath and let herself float back up to the top of the tank. Her head bobbing through the hatch, she gasped for air. With her entire body shaking from the cold, she hauled herself up onto the top of the tank. There she lay, soaking wet and shivering, but thankful to still be alive. "Don't just lie there, child," the professor called up. What now?" "Look outside the window. We're in the middle of a storm. Time is of the essence. You need to tug the wire 3 times as a signal to Dottie to take off in the hot air balloon." The girl did what she was told. Tug, tug, tug. Next, Elsie leaped off the tank back onto the diplodocus skeleton. Within moments, the length of wire were tightened. "Perfect!" called out the professor. Up on the roof of the museum, a cold and miserable Dotty finally got the signal. As fast as she could, she untied the ropes that were holding the basket down and took to the skies. Whoosh! The lady was flying straight into the heart of the storm. Soon bolts of lightning were exploding all around her. Boom! Boom! Against her better judgment, she steered the balloon into their path, and bang! A rush of electricity struck the tin helmet on top of the balloon. Ting! The copper wire glowed as energy shot through it. Oh no, whispered Dotty to herself. I think a wee bit came out. The bottle of lightning sped all the way down the wire, to the tower, down the chimney, across the director's office, along the corridor, round a corner, down the steps, and into the tank. The punch of electricity hit the mammoth straight in the heart. They had done it. Or had they? The professor and Elsie looked on as nothing happened. Nothing at all. Note. Zero. Zilch. No! It hasn't worked! Raged the professor. Wait, whispered the girl. I can sense something's changed. Elsie put her hand up to the glass and looked deep into the mammoth's eye. Unless her mind was playing tricks on her, she was sure the creature was staring straight back at her. Then the most incredible thing happened. It blinked. Did you see that, Professor? Exclaimed Elsie. What? It blinked. In his wheelchair, the professor began shaking with excitement. He took a deep breath before proclaiming, It's alive! Chapter 31. Don't Look Round. Elsie threw her arms round the man and hugged him tight. We did it! She exclaimed. Yes, I did it! He purred. Now release me this instant! The celebration had come too soon, because the mammoth had started thrashing around inside the tank. It let out a cry muffled by the water. Ooh! If they didn't get the creature out, and soon, it would drown. The professor wheeled himself over and lifted the pickaxe above his head, before smashing it against the glass. Crunch! A patchwork of cracks appeared in the glass. Ooh! Cried the animal under the water. The creature lurched forward and hit the glass with its tusks. Smash! And all at once the glass fell away. Icy water flooded the main hall, sweeping Elsie off her feet and the professor off his wheels. Swish! Ah! Screamed the girl as she was launched against the stone staircase. The professor banged his head badly, and he was now laying face down in the water, his wheelchair on its side a few feet away from him. Professor! Professor! Pleaded the girl. Suddenly the old man's eyes opened and then widened. Whatever you do, he began, don't look round. Of course, there is nothing like being told not to look round to make you look round. Slowly, the girl turned her head. Just behind her was the mammoth, rearing up on its hind legs. Whoo! The instant those legs crashed down, Elsie and the professor would be dead. Wow, right, we will leave it there for today. Hope you enjoyed those chapters. So hope you guys are all still okay. Remember, if you need anything, go onto the website and email the Year 4 team, and we can get you work packs or get you things that you can pick up from school, any books and crayons and things like that. Okay, so take care, guys, and I will see you same time back here tomorrow. Okay, bye.